Morning. It is Thursday morning. Excuse me. It is June the 2nd, and this is Coffee Talk. We get together 7 days a week to chat about what's going on in the world of weather, of course. This time of year, I feel these coffee talks become a little more involved because we've got stuff to track in the tropics. And unfortunately, just as the title of Coffee Talk says today, our weekend forecast and the tropics. Not only are we tracking both, but both are directly intermingled with each other. That's the last thing we really like to see. So the top two things for you today on Coffee Talk. Yes, tracking Invest 91, and there is a new burst of convection off the Yucatan Peninsula, perhaps an indication that the storm system is starting its tropical genesis or starting to develop. We, of course, will have all the latest imagery and model data for you there. Plus, the weekend forecast. Not necessarily all bad news. You know I like to always find the silver lining. We'll be talking about your weekend plans using Futurecast throughout the morning. But before we get into anything else, let's just start off with this morning. And yes, we are going to talk at length about the tropics. This morning is beautiful. I always invite you to share this with your friends and family just so that everybody knows what's going on in the world of weather. Look at that. That's Brevard County, our tower cam network over in Cocoa. Waking up to temperatures nice and warm, at least in the metro. We're in the upper 70s there. I do find mid-60s in Marion County, lower 70s back over to Palm Coast. And our first warning live Doppler radar tracking a few showers off the coastline, but nothing too bad. High pressure and control, it's kind of kept us relatively quiet in the weather department. Let me switch over to the half screen version of this. Our 12-hour forecast then for the day today does include a few additional clouds and a few afternoon showers and thunder showers. It's not going to be a washout of an afternoon. We're not going to see a ton of rain, but there is going to be some rain around. 86 our lunchtime temperature, 91 degrees our 3 o'clock high temperature, and yes, we're working up to about a 30% coverage of showers and storms. So what about the high temperatures? Average high is 90. We'll do 91 in Orlando, 92 degrees in Leesburg. Notice along the beaches, mid-80s. That looks pretty darn good to me. But what about Futurecast? What about the timing of the rainfall? Let's take a look, shall we? Here we are, 10 o'clock this morning. We're doing A-OK. We'll push you to about lunchtime, and you'll notice that we are going to keep with a relatively quiet setup. Not much to speak of into the afternoon. Right there, 3 o'clock around Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Holapaw. A couple of showers trying to bubble up. Same thing through 5 o'clock. 6, 7 o'clock showers, maybe a few thunder showers, and then the focus starts to move out toward the west, okay? Makes sense? That's our day in a nutshell. All right, let's take a look at the 7-day forecast, and then we're going to expand out to see what's doing in the world of the tropics. That certainly is going to be our big discussion point for the day today. 91 today, 30% chance of rain. Yes, Friday, Saturday, even Sunday we're tracking the tropics. Rain chances, they're going to ebb and flow. It's not an easy forecast to make. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we kind of get back to that normal Central Florida weather pattern. Okay? All right, so that is a look at what's going on in our local forecast. Let's now take a few seconds and let's chat about the tropics. We know the last couple of days we've been watching what was at one point Hurricane Agatha in the Pacific. Here's a look at it now. It has reemerged over the warm waters of the Caribbean Sea, and it has now been dubbed Invest 91. And throughout Coffee Talk, we're going to be keeping a box of tracking details there on the bottom left part of your screen because we want to make sure that you have the very latest, even if we're on other maps and things like that. So bottom left corner says it all, but we'll talk more about it ad nauseum, frankly. There is a high likelihood over the next 2 days' time that Tropical Wave Invest 91 gets its act together and starts to develop tropically. 80% likelihood that this happens, okay? Over the next 2 days' time. We think we're probably going to be seeing a tropical depression forming. And as a matter of fact, it may have already started that progress. Before we get into any other model data or anything else, let's just look at the satellite-derived winds, okay? This is a product If you followed me for a while, you know I pull it out during hurricane season. But what this does is this lets us kind of look at the core of the storm system to see where the winds are spinning, what levels of the winds there are. It's not completely tightened up. There are still little elements, especially on the west side, right over the northern shoreline there of the Yucatan Peninsula, that it is not quite tightened up. So to me, if you look at where the actual center of circulation is, it's right on the extreme northeastern tip of the Yucatan. So it's still encountering land interaction. It's not quite moved into the safety of the Caribbean Sea just yet. That's why it's not quite developed. That's super okay with me. I'm not in the like cheerleader like hurrah, hurrah, get yourself a name. I'm not in that camp at all. I'm watching this kind of like, yeah, hang around the land a little bit, stumble around a little bit. Remember, tropical systems need warm water. And it's been for the last day or so kind of hanging around land. We think today it starts to finally move away from the Yucatan. It gets picked up in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So as it moves away, I do think that this is going to try and get going. And even with that land interaction that it's encountering right now, if I go back to the satellite imagery, it's still bubbling up some decent convection. So once it pulls away, there's no reason why this doesn't try to become a tropical depression. It's got kind of the intensity of a tropical depression, but it's got to close that low off completely. And once that low is closed off, it's a surface low completely, then we've got ourselves tropical cyclone genesis. Super nerd term, I know. All right, so that's kind of where we're at. What do the models say? Let's start with the global side by side, and then we can dive in deeper, of course. On the left side here, this is the European model. On the right side, this is the GFS model. Both models do have it developing. Here's a look. This is Saturday. You see the GFS is a little faster than the European. The GFS is a little further south than the European. But they're both bringing lots of moisture and tropical impacts to the Florida Peninsula. Of course, on Coffee Talk, though, we like to go more in depth. We don't like to just look at the surface. We like to really dive in. So let's take a look at the raw GFS and the raw European, right? Let's just scroll this down. Okay, here's the GFS. This is the most recent run. And I think we could probably move to the Florida view, right? Why not? All right, so here we are. GFS, let me just switch this around. Where are we at? Sir? Oh, I guess I can't do that on that view. All right, so we'll go back to the wide view. It doesn't process the anomaly pressure that I like to show on the Florida view. So, okay, good to know. All right, so here we go. There it is. The model is already trying to broaden that pressure, and it's deepening and lowering the pressures right there. This is 18Z on Friday. That is 2 p.m. tomorrow. Just to the north and west of Cuba, kind of working toward Florida. It's trying to figure out lowering pressure. Is it 1 core? Is it 2? You know, that to me is the GFS saying it's not going to be all that organized, which is good. 12Z, that's Saturday morning. That is 8 o'clock in the morning. And then, of course, it kind of moves through there. All right? That's that. Let's switch over and let's look at the European process. All right, let me scroll this down a little bit. European already kind of broadening and lowering that pressure. Tightening it here, that's as far as the European goes for right now. It's run through hour 60. I don't know if it's running a little behind or not, but there you go, kind of moving it. So they both seem to, there's the European. Let's switch over and look at the GFS. They actually both seem to kind of line up, don't they? They're awful close in this 6Z run. They look to be awful close in terms of not only location of a potential landfall, but also timing. So looks like maybe the models are starting to come into better agreement, which works for me. Definitely works for me. So Southwest Florida, that's in our hotspot. Remember when we issued our hurricane season forecast, the hotspot was the Florida Peninsula. The number one hotspot for the year is the Florida Peninsula. We outlined that 3 months ago. 3 months, 1 day. 3 months, 1 day ago. 3 months, 1 day ago. All right, so yeah, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense there. All right, now to some of your questions, your comments, your concerns. Michael says, day 2 of hurricane season, burst 2002. Did I say something wrong? Did I say 2002 hurricane season? If so, I apologize. Yeesh. All right, lots of comments. Linda, good morning to you. Kenneth, good morning, Kenneth. Do you think flights will be canceled? I don't. I think we may start to see delays if there are some heavier downpours moving through. But remember, flights get canceled for like tropical storms and hurricanes. This is not looking like it's going to be much. If we just look at, and let's just look at this to be on the same page here. European model. Okay? Let me just back this up a little bit. I want to show you. I think is it 30 or 35 miles an hour that the airports kind of start to shut down? Sustained winds of 30, 35. These are gusts that I'm showing you here, okay? 14, 17. This is not even a summer's day, right? This is not even a summer's day. Saturday, 3:30, gusting to 31 in storms. This is like summer's day stuff. 37 gusts in downpours. So no, we're not looking at airport closures. We shouldn't be looking at evacuations. None of that. This is not a big storm, okay? This is not going to be a big Florida hit. We had our hurricane special last night, and one of the stories that I did was about evacuations and about how Floridians are out of practice from a real hit. This is not going to be a real hit, thankfully. Okay? All right, let's talk about computer forecast models. The models are kind of fairly tightly in agreement with kind of Fort Myers area up to about Tampa. This if you've lived here as long as I have, when you see something like this, you're like, oh man, that reminds me of Charlie. This is not Charlie. Charlie hit in August, water temperatures are warmer, atmosphere is more stable, yada, 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 yada. This is June 2nd, okay? So this is not going to be like Charlie. It's reminiscent in its spot, but no, this is not going to be a Charlie, okay? A lot of people were messaging me asking, are we going to be talking about hurricane winds? And it's really important that we just remember that. It looks like this is going to stay south of us. This is not expected to become a hurricane. As a matter of fact, those were the spaghetti plots. Here's a look at the intensity model plots. Most of the models keep it below tropical storm intensity. We run these every couple of hours. There are a few models that do try to bring it to tropical storm intensity, but the vast majority of models say this is not going to be anything but a rain burger. And even with that said, the majority of the rain, given all of the models, this is the rainfall forecast. For our area, a half an inch to about 2-3 inches. So do we need to be canceling our weekend plans? No. I mean, I might to cover this, because if there's a named storm system, you know that we're going to be on air a little extra, just because there is worry, there is concern, and people are going to be turning to us for information. But I'm here to tell you, people, I wouldn't be canceling weekend plans. Okay? There's going to be a tropical system, a depression, maybe a storm, probably impacting South Florida. And you're going to make fun of me. Oh, the weather guy said there was a tropical system. It's beautiful out. I'm here to tell you it's going to be probably just normal. A little bit of rain, a little bit of sun. Welcome to Florida life, right? I've lived here too long. I've covered enough of these things. People are going to give me grief. You were wrong. You said it was going to be a I'm still saying it's going to be a tropical thing, but South Florida is different than Central Florida. Oy vey. Okay? So, don't cancel weekend plans. Every single year, we get these things coming on through, and it's just what it is. Does this indicate that the entire season is going to be very active? Jeannie's asking. No, this is just a storm. This is just a storm system. Remember, since 2015, we have had named tropical systems before the hurricane season even started. And that's not coming to fruition today, is it? Yeah. Hurricane season this year, for the first time since 2015, started without a preseason storm. You know? Colorado State University issues their update. Is it today or tomorrow? Next couple of days, we'll see what they say. My WESH 2 hurricane season forecast, calling for a near average season. That's been published since March 1st. You can read it. WESH.com/hurricane forecast. We'll see. You know, everybody's looking at their data and deriving information as best they can. But no, this doesn't mean that we're talking about a busy season. This just means we've got something to watch. Marie says we could use some rain. Yeah, we could. Eric and Wesh News, thanks for keeping us informed. Have a blessed day. Iris, you as well. Be good. Thank you for hanging with us. Let's see here. Elizabeth says, I'm prepared. I mean, prepared for rain. You know, this is not going to be any big deal. Kate says, we have weekend plans in Bradenton. What do you think? You know, watch it. Maybe it's going to be a little rainier than normal, but this is even looking to stay south of Bradenton. That's all. It's okay. Again, I wouldn't cancel plans. We've had hurricanes turn around and come back stronger and more deadly. Look, everything and anything can, and will happen, right? But, you know, our forecast confidence in this is starting to go up and go up and go up. Brandon, is it possible Invest 91 could turn more north towards Central Florida? Of course it could. That's why today, when we look at the timeline there, we're just watching it. We're seeing where it develops. We're seeing what the models are coming in with. Friday night and Saturday, those are going to be the impacts, particularly for South Florida. That's the thought for right now, particularly for South Florida. And then Sunday, it moves away. Bye, Felicia. And then we get to move back into our weekend mode. Okay? So that's where we're at. For data, just so that you know, hurricane hunters are set to start flying. Their first mission is 2 p.m. today. And what I thought was pretty interesting is that 2 p.m. today, they're investigating. 2 a.m. tomorrow, they're starting fixes. 7:30 tomorrow, fixes. So the Hurricane Center is assuming that today's 2 p.m. flight finds a storm system that requires them to start fixes. What I think is good is that once we get the hurricane hunters flying into the storm system, we start getting that model data better and better. Right, all that data from the hurricane hunters, those dropsondes, the radar data that they track, depending on what they have in that particular aircraft. But all of that data, the surfaced sondes, they feed that back, and all of that comes back into the computer models, probably for tonight's 8 p.m. runs. If not, it would be the tomorrow morning 2 a.m. runs. Better late than never, right? But, the models are in pretty tight agreement here. We think that it's going to be just a messy, weak, low-end tropical type thing, bringing rainfall to the peninsula. All right? That's where we're at. That's where we're at. No huge winds. Some gusty winds in some of these downpours. No huge winds, though. We can handle that. We can handle that. All right, let's see here. Let me get to some of these questions. Cruising the Bahamas from Port Canaveral. Where can we see more about the weather there this weekend? It'll be, where? Miami News. Lydia, if you're cruising, I would say a good person to follow, even if you're not on Royal, is meteorologist. It's so weird because he used to be my competition. Meteorologist Jim Van Fleet. Look him up on social media. He is the Royal Caribbean chief meteorologist. Used to be a TV guy, used to work here in Orlando, and has now moved on from TV and is the chief meteorologist for Royal Caribbean. He does a great job. And they're monitoring for all of their destinations, and he posts on his social channels. So if you're cruising, even if it's not with Royal, he's posting updates for cruise destinations. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. My husband is at a living facility. Usually pick him up on Saturdays. Should I not pick him up to be safe? I would not cancel plans. At this point, we're looking at some additional rainfall. Here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want this to do what we think it's going to do, which is it moves into South Florida, brings them some severe weather and some heavy rains. Up here, it's cloudy with occasional showers, and you're like, why did I cancel any of my plans? So that's why I'm telling you, don't cancel your plans. I'm going to, not that I had any, but, I'm going to be at work longer because I'm going to be tracking it. Don't cancel plans. Okay? Kimberly says, I'm not changing any plans, just waiting and watching as usual. That's all. And if it rains, you just go inside. That's all. That's all you do. That's all you do. Josh Johnson. Hey, buddy. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Outdoors concert Friday and Saturday evening in Orlando. Are we going to get rained out? No more or less, I think, than would be the normal forecast, right? Well, why haven't you shown a cone yet? The Hurricane Center has not issued a cone with this because it is not developed. It is but an open tropical wave. It looks like it's trying to get better, but that's the window right there of movement and of possible tropical development. So you kind of get an idea. Pretend that that's a cone. That gives you an idea of what we're looking at. Southwest Florida, just going to be getting some tropical downpours. Dana says, I remember Jim Van Fleet. My old roommate had such a crush on him. He's a handsome son of a gun, that guy. Colleen, be good. Be good. Sharon says, thank you for keeping me sane June through November every year. Your knowledge only gets better. Well, thank you. Look, we've been through this before. We're going to go through it many, many times again, right? That's what we do this time of year. John says, rule number 7. That's right. Meteorologist Dennis Phillips over in Tampa. His shtick is rule number 7. Don't freak out unless he freaks out. And he never freaks out, right? Yeah. We don't need to freak out. I'm not going to take his shtick, but I will reference him, give him credit, and say the same thing. Don't freak out, people, especially with this. This thing's not even a tropical storm. It's going to rain. Now, that said, flooding is a concern, but I think even that's going to stay in South Florida. Susan, curiosity question. What reports have you heard from Cancun? Some family vacationed there last week, came home Saturday. Nothing bad. It kind of fell apart well before it got to Cancun. Maybe some flooding, but nothing massive. Jessica, when do you go back to the studio? What is today? Thursday? I'm back in the studio Friday. Yeah, Friday? Friday? No, Saturday. Wait, tomorrow. Tomorrow, yeah. Took me a second to think about this. Only plans I canceled my laundry was Saturday. Now it is in the wash. Rain is not good for line drying. That is correct. That is correct. Robin, we're visiting family in Okeechobee. 7 to 10 inches of rain. In Okeechobee? For Okeechobee County? Nah. I mean, I would say that 7 to 10 inches of rain are likely in like Florida City, Homestead, Miami. Could be talking about big rains. For Okeechobee County, probably like 3 to 4 inches of rain. But remember, if you're not familiar, by the way, on this map, Okeechobee is the county. You see where it says Stewart? Look just left of that, just west of that. Okeechobee County is that kind of little, looks like almost a weird triangle on the top side of Lake Okeechobee. We could get 5 inches of rain and a heck of a thunderstorm in the afternoon. Just remember, Florida gets really gnarly weather on like every afternoon, so during the summertime. So I want to do my best to keep all of that into perspective for you, right? Yeah, South Florida could definitely see some flooding concerns. I think that that's where the flooding concern stays, is in South Florida. Here's a look at the flooding threat, as a matter of fact. Likely flash flooding for extreme southern communities. That's the Everglades, but that does include Miami. That does include Fort Lauderdale. For Fort Myers, Naples, back over to Belle Glade, even Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Port St. Lucie, and Stewart. Flooding is possible. In our area, Friday into Saturday, we'll be watching for it. I don't think it's as much of a threat for us. I think it's going to be a South Florida flood concern. And that was the biggest worry from this. If the flooding threat stays south, Again, don't cancel your weekend plans, right? Because it's not looking like it's going to be a massive event for us, which I'm fine with. I don't hope for anything bad for our friends in South Florida, certainly. I've got friends and family that are down there. But, let's just call it as we see it. Let's just, let's identify it and make sure that we know. I want to go to the beach. Go today. Why not? I'm not changing my day for this. I'm changing my life. We just don't know. Mr. Rodas, you like it. You know it. When is the return date for this one? So if it's June 5th, June, July, it would be August 10th-ish, August 12th-ish, something like that. But this is its stronger cycle. So that August 12th-ish version probably won't be a thing. Let's see here. Heading to the ortho doc to see if I've torn my left rotator cuff. Oh, Nikki, I'm sorry. Hopefully we're okay. Jessica says, you don't even know what day it is. When you get lost in the weather data, you lose your situational awareness on the calendar. I've only got so much brain to focus. Jessica, you putz. Zen, so Polk gets missed again. I mean, it's going to rain. There's going to be some showers. John says, we get afternoon thunderstorms worse than this. Precisely my point. Mickey says, severe or asks severe weather from Invest 91. I think that the majority of that threat stays in South Florida. I do. We're going to miss the drought-busting rain in Narcoossee, aren't we? Yeah, might. This time. Now that said, a reminder, it cycles back through. I'll probably make a mention of this. Modifying that, what is it? It's June, July. The August calendar probably will make a mention of this. Probably would be something weak, but moving over us, bringing some rains. We need tropical rains, right? This would have been perfect for us. Looks like it's going to be more of a South Florida deal. We'll watch and see how it plays out, right? Fortunately, WESH 2 never applies the Ferengi rule of acquisition number 5 to its forecasting. Always exaggerate your estimates. Yeah, I always stay pretty conservative fiscally and forecastally. If the car is going to cost you this much, plan for it to cost you that much. If you're going to the gas pump right now, don't say, it'll be $60. Plan for $100. Always edge your numbers in your brain so that you plan accordingly, right? We got this, Eric, because we know you got this. Thank you, Caroline. I appreciate it. Bless you. Let's see. United Airlines is offering miles with Royal Caribbean Wonder of the Seas. Oh, that sounds cool. We left South Florida about 5 years ago. Best move ever. Oh, you know what? I love South Florida. If there was any other place that I would want to live other than Central Florida, I do love South Florida. Oh, do I love South Florida. Eric, your glasses look awesome. Thank you. I've got another pair I'll have to bring out at some point. Another new pair. Linda, explain how one cycle is strong and the next is weaker. So there's this working theory. So let's talk a little bit about that, okay? So there's this working theory with the LRC. If you're not familiar, what is the LRC? The LRC is our long-range forecasting technique that we use. So if we look at the first version of this is Thursday, November 18th, 2021. Look at Southwest Florida. There was just some rain that moved in. A little weak piece of energy. Literally did not catch my radar at all. At all. Nothing there that said, I'm an indicator. So I didn't pay any attention to it. That was the weaker version. What we're starting to zero in on mentally is the idea that every other cycle, the top spins. Okay? So from a weaker cycle in November to a stronger cycle in January. This is January 26th. That's a storm system, Southwest Florida. That's an actual area of low pressure. That's an indicator. It wasn't massive, but it was there. That was a stronger version, right? The next one, April 3rd, weak nothing trough. Weak nothing trough. Next one, bottom left corner of your screen, Invest 91. So with that said, once this were to recycle again, what is it? Again, it's June, July, so August 10th, 11th, 12th-ish. That would be its weaker version. That probably will still mean some tropical moisture for us, but, yeah. So that's the idea. That's what we're watching. So, for example, the Floreaster feature, the November 6th part of the weather pattern, that just moved through. Here, I'll pull it up. That was the weaker part of its pattern. So it didn't really do much. The next version of its pattern, though, the next version of its pattern, that is going to be stronger. So we're highlighting especially the west coast of Florida for that. Mid-May, again, it didn't really do much. It was clouds and rain. But that late July version, that's going to be a version that I would say we'll really have to watch. All right, so that's the way it works. And then late September on the Floreaster would be its weaker version. So we're starting to focus in on the stronger versus weaker versions of these things. And we certainly want to share any information with you as we come through it. Are we on the top right quadrant of the storm when it's closer? No, that would be like the Keys in South Florida. So no, we would not be on the right front quadrant of this storm system. August 1 will be right at the start of hurricane season. Or the school year, you mean. Yeah, but it should be, again, we always start hurricane season off having to deal with tropical stuff, so that's the way it works. They're forcing the William, you buy a donkey. How much are those going for these days? Let's see here. What kind of coffee are you drinking today? It is Pilone Espresso with a little French vanilla creamer. Will you go back to previous years to see if that weak, strong pattern is a yearly occurrence? Yeah, Carolyn, that's part of the case studying that I've been working. And the easiest version of that is, and I could pull it up on my phone, but the easiest version of that is Hurricane Charlie, finding its back and forth and back and forth. Yeah. What's funny with Hurricane Charlie is Charlie was the stronger cycle. Jean was the weaker cycle. So it did still spawn a tropical system. Yeah. But yeah, good question. First year in a while that no name storms before hurricane season started, Karen. And that's why, that's one of the indicators that follows up with again, everybody looks differently at long-range stuff, but the WESH 2022 hurricane season forecast, I'm calling for a near-average season. It'll probably be a little above average, but I'm not expecting this one to go bonkers. Okay, so that's my forecast. And just the sheer fact that we made it for the first time in, 7 years? We made it into the season with no named storm, that follows the idea. So we'll see how we're going to see how this all plays out over the next coming days and weeks and months. There's a lot of hurricane season left to go. We're only, day 2? Super fun. So this weekend, we're tracking the tropics. Good times. We'll be watching it closely. I think most of the inclement weather, though, stays in South Florida. Notice the rain chances Friday and Saturday, 50 and 60. You don't see 100%. You don't see 90%. Okay? I think it'll be cloudier, probably. But, yeah. Don't cancel plans. We just have to watch and see how it plays out. What about the possibility of reaching the end of the list? My forecast doesn't call for that. Aaron says my estimate of slightly above average. Makes sense. Yeah, I would say that near average, probably edging on the slightly above side, but I'm not going crazy above. I'm saying it's going to be a little closer to average than we've seen these last few years. All right. Donkeys are free due to the amount of blank available. You're funny. I like it. All right. Any questions, comments, concerns before we wrap this puppy up for the day? Anybody? I want to make sure to answer anything. I will say this, though. There are no indicators that we are getting a hurricane this weekend. So let's make sure not to be freaking out. Will South Palm Bay get a lot? You could get some rainfall, but you're going to get, again, think of it as just what's the term I'm looking for? It's kind of like in a daily pattern during the summer, Central Florida gets thunderstorms. Why? Sea breeze. Well, maybe this weekend, instead of the sea breeze causing the rains, it's a tropical system. Okay. So it's the same result, it's just a different cause. That's all. That's all. I would not be canceling my plans unless I worked in a weather department. Hold on, Manolfi's calling. Tony, you're on live on Coffee Talk.
Oh, you're still going. I love it.
You got anything to say? A note from the chief?
I'm just working my way up to Port Orange, the public library up there for Hurricane Expo this morning.
Very good. Very good.
There's going to be lots of questions on our invest this morning. I am excited to see what the hurricane hunters find today, though.
I would imagine there's a pretty decent convective burst this morning. I'd imagine that, they're going to go ahead with that 2 p.m. flight.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
So one question I had, and I can't remember, if they fly at 2, would that data make it into the 8 p.m. model runs, or would that be the 2 a.m. model runs?
I would think more 2 a.m. because it's a long flight,
yep.
And I don't think that all of that data
yep.
would get ingested into the 000 run.
Yeah.
So I actually thinking about that yesterday. You're going to plot the recon data for our folks?
You know I am.
All right, just making sure.
You know I am.
No, that's a valuable piece of information right there. I tell you what.
I think that with that little convective burst today, it'll be really interesting once the sun continues to get higher up to see if there's a surface circulation. The satellite wind data sure looks like it's trying to close off, but it's like right the low is like right at Cancun.
Yeah, I didn't look at the ASCAT data this morning because I'm heading up there, but I'd love to see what that looks like. The pressure did drop just by 1 millibar, though. I noticed that from 1,004 at 11 o'clock to 1,003 this, overnight and early this morning. So.
Yeah, I'm going to try. Give me 1 second. I'm going to plot. Well, you're not watching anyway.
But I'll jump on Twitter here, and I'm sure you're going to tweet it out.
Yeah, I'll tweet it out here in a second. I'm just going to pop it back up that way as we're talking.
Yep.
Everybody can know what we're talking about. Yeah, the wind looked like it would popped up just a little bit. Yeah, so I'm showing it there, and the winds are definitely, the wind field is broadening out. It looks like the winds are starting to pick up just a little bit.
That was the one thing I was going to say. That was the one thing I didn't see. If you looked at the GFS runs, it looked too small.
Yep.
Based on the overall satellite presentation. Not to say that the GFS has a location in the wrong spot. I just don't think it's broad enough and wide enough to storm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it's figuring it out today, but it's the at least the satellite wind initialized it literally right off the northern tip of the Yucatan. So I think, if it's already bursting convection and it's still hugging the coast, once it pulls away today, I think it's going to be at least able to get to that depression status, and we're going to be live tracking that mission. You're going to have some fun, you and Cam, for 4 o'clock watching that data.
Well, and the other thing too is, I always remind the public that, when the Hurricane Center is looking at something, they're not going to wait the last second to get a cone out, especially on a holiday week when a lot of people, weren't looking at a lot of stuff, and all of a sudden they're coming back midweek or maybe staying the whole week wherever they are. They want to try to give as much heads up as possible. So.
Well, that's why they came up with the potential tropical cyclone thing, and they haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, because I think we're all in agreement that this is going to be a big rainmaker, but not a massive storm system by the time it gets to Florida.
No, yeah. Well, there was a slight uptick in the intensity forecast last night. I haven't seen the new runs this morning, but still well below a hurricane on all of the models. I didn't see any that were plotting a hurricane.
No.
I don't know what it looked like this morning.
No, the intensity's hugging the depression storm status. It's not trying to go ballistic today at all.
Good. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. So.
No. All right. I'll let you get back to your group there this morning, and I'll hop on your Twitter feed there to take a look at that the wind field there.
Yep.
In a second.
Yep. I'll tweet that as soon as I get off. I'll wrap up Coffee Talk here in a minute, and then I'll give you a call back, Bubba.
Oh, real quick before I let you go. So one of the things, folks, that Eric and I like to do is we're always brainstorming ideas. And so I threw him an idea last night, which I like what you did. but I did a test one, Eric. I'm not sure if you had the chance.
I did see it. Yeah.
Just to kind of line it up a little bit better. Give me your thoughts on that, and then text me later on.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, guys. See you.
All right, see you, buddy. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The Chief calling into Coffee Talk this morning. You know he's a nerd too, right? All right, so we'll be watching the latest this afternoon. For the afternoon Coffee Talk, we'll probably be plotting live recon data, assuming, Teal 71 gets up? Yeah, first recon mission of the year, all right? All right, we went 11 minutes long because the Chief called in. That's okay. You always extend your day for the Chief. Don't freak out, people. It's going to rain either way this weekend, here or there. I don't think it's going to be a washout, though. So I'll take it. Be the sunshine in someone else's day. Thank you so much for hanging out for Coffee Talk. I will see you guys later on, 3:30 this afternoon, for the afternoon Coffee Talk. Bye, y'all.